going on, everybody? Okay, before I get started on the video, I just want to let everyone know just to hear me out until the very end, because I legit feel like some people will hear the name Sakura and immediately get furious and start spamming the dislike button. And some are just tired of the comparison of the two. I get it. Don't worry, I definitely get it. But there are some correlations between the two characters that I really would like to talk about. So please put all that anger in your heart on pause for a second. One of the main reasons why I'm bringing up Sakura and Nobara up in the same conversation is because both of the series have similar dynamics when it comes to the characters. Both of the series, Naruto and Jujutsu Kaisen, have schools that train and educate their students, or ninja slash jujutsu sorcerers. Both series have a team of 3 and their captain. Both series have a dim-witted, headstrong protagonist who has a demon in his belly. They also have the brooding, silent type who has this dark, mysterious past. They even have the lovable captain who's more popular than the main characters. I could go on and on about the comparison. Now, obviously Naruto and Jujutsu Kaisen are different aspects, but the quickest comparison I could probably think of Jujutsu Kaisen is a mixture between Naruto and Bleach. At the same time, don't misconstrue that I'm just oversimplifying Jujutsu Kaisen. The main reason I'm bringing them up in the same sentence is just because I feel like Naruto on some fields where they don't do the female characters justice, and in Jujutsu Kaisen where I feel like they perform or they actually execute the female characters in the show perfectly. Alright, so let's go ahead and get this underway. First, I want to go ahead and talk about the similarities of the characters in the show, and you've also been warned there's going to be some small spoilers, just not very much. If you at least watch the first few episodes of Jujutsu Kaisen, I won't go in too much details about the story and the characters, but yeah, small spoilers. So now let's go and talk about Sakura and Nobara. When we first introduced to Nobara in the series, she comes off judgy, brash, and at times a little full of herself. You see this in Nobara whenever she looks at her teammates and she's introduced to them, immediately begins to roast them, saying that Yuji looks like a potato and he seems like the kind of person that would eat his own boogers. Whenever Gojo takes them to the mission, instead of going to go see sightseeing to test Nobara's ability, she sees the mission as nothing more than a waste of time and refuses to work with Yuji. When Yuji tries to, be concerned about her and tell that we should work together in order for them to be safe, she immediately hits homeboy with a drop kick. Now, for Sakura, if I'm being honest, she suffers from these traits a lot more than Nobara. In the Naruto series, Sakura judges Naruto for not having any parents, but for some reason at the same time decides to show sympathy for Sasuke even though he doesn't have any parents. Whenever she meets Rock Lee, she starts off by judging him and saying that he's nothing more than just some weirdo with big eyebrows and a bowl cut. Now later on in the Jujutsu Kaisen series, you see Nobara is obsessed with her looks in a similar fashion that Sakura is obsessed with her looks. But I'm going to circle back around to this because I feel like this is something we should dive into separately. Alright, so I kind of want to talk about how these characters are different. Alright, so the two characters share some similarities, but they also display different traits and characteristics as well. Sakura is more shy when Nobara is more confident and assured of herself. And this is more or less just has to do with each character's upbringing. Now, Nobara grew up in a village where her childhood friend was ran off, all because she was different and constantly being ridiculed. Nobara saw this more of a wake-up call on how cruel and unfair the world could be, and even though Nobara judges people in the same sense as her villagers did, she still has the self-awareness to respect strong and caring people. She also is a very huge trash talker. Sakura will sometimes talk a little bit of trash, or just kind of like a little sass behind it, but ultimately she can never really back it up in a fight. And I think more or less this has to do with her insecurities about her looks and about being paired up with some of the best or strongest ninjas in the village. In a fight, she constantly doubts herself and relies on others to get the job done, but constantly looking for Naruto to come save her. Nobara, on the other hand, will talk junk throughout the whole fight. Even when she's on the brink of death, homegirl was about to get swallowed alive and insists that she's seconds away from cursing them.
You! I know your face now! I swear I'm going to curse you!
And real quick, I think this is what makes her such an awesome character. Because many female characters, hell, just characters in general, will either start crying or tearing up in the eye, or they'll feel some sense of defeat when they're on the brink of death, or when they're staring death in the face. So now I want to focus on one of the key differences that separates Nobara and Sakura. When it comes to Sakura and Nobara, it seems like Sakura is actually fighting for other people, and Nobara is actually fighting for herself. Let me explain what I mean. It feels like in Naruto Shippuden, Sakura chased this idea of acceptance or possibly redemption because of how poorly she was received in the Naruto series. More or less, she fought for the acceptance from Naruto and Sasuke, which ultimately was unrealistic goals. I mean, Sakura, she saved a lot of lives being a medical ninja and learning, being such a great student from Tsunade. But the simple fact that Naruto was basically had a demon inside of him, had the Nine Tails inside of him, and Sasuke was already proven to be on the road for greatness for being a Uchiha. And Sakura is just from a nobody family. Like she didn't come from any type of special bloodline. She essentially just had goals that was just unrealistic and really difficult for her to even match. And at the end of the day, I really felt like Sakura was really just fighting for the acceptance from the viewers, for the people watching the show. I felt like she was fighting to actually gain popularity, or Kishimoto was fighting to get popularity for her. But when you look on the other hand, when it comes to Nobara, she knew who she was. She didn't really have any soul searching that she needed to do. So even if Nobara had similar flaws that Sakura had, Nobara actually carried those flaws like a badge of honor, and she accepted herself for who she was. But if you remember the fight with Nobara and Momo, Nobara makes an excellent point about what it's like to be a woman and a fighter. So during the fight, Momo is keeping her distance and at the same time lands a clean shot on Nobara's face, where she goes on to say, "How dare you hurt my precious face?" This is the start of some really good back and forth about the common perception of women sorcerers in the series. Momo continues to say, "A scar on a man's face is a badge of honor, but for a woman it's only a flaw." Momo then goes on into this other monologue about the expectations women sorcerers have in their world, and where she believes a woman has to be cute, strong, and if she doesn't have one or the other, then she's undervalued. Now, real quick, I want to take a step back and analyze those comments with other anime creators. The person behind Sakura was Kishimoto. From a few different interviews, he goes on to say how difficult it was to create Sakura. He really had no idea how to make a strong female lead and initially only wanted Sakura there to be a love interest. Kishimoto tries focusing more on Sakura's feminine look than he actually did her character development, because in his eyes he thought Sakura's looks would be more important. So back to the fight with Momo and Nobara. Momo goes on to defend and stand up for her classmate Mai on how Mai was raised in the Zenny clan and that the clan expected perfection from her because she was a woman. Then Nobara shuts all that down with some of the best responses that I've seen in a long time in anime. Nobara goes on to say that Maki withstood the same upbringing and still came out a strong and beautiful woman. And just because you had a hard upbringing doesn't mean you can treat people however you see fit. And I think what Nobara said next was really inspiring. While stating that she doesn't care about gender norms and that she's gonna love herself no matter what because she's beautiful and strong and all that good stuff. For some reason, that quote really resonated with me. Like, it's starting to be a little bit more common now, but how often do we see female characters in anime being poorly portrayed, or they're just not living up to expectations? Being portrayed as nothing more than a sex object, or essentially just being a damsel in distress in most cases. Two examples that come to mind when I think of female characters that's done poorly versus female characters that's done exceptionally. If we look at a character like Urza from Fairy Tail, she shows promise and she's obviously one of the fan favorites of the show, but unfortunately I do feel like she's shadowed on how much they over sexualize her. And when we talk about the fighting aspect of the show, many people will argue that they kind of use the power of friendship a good bit, so some of the fights could be illogical. So I think that could be used as one of the drawbacks for her. Now, if we go the opposite route and look at a character, let's say Yorichi from Bleach. Now, even though that she's still sexualized and she kind of uses her physique in an erotic way, but she does it more in a playful manner, she still displays how strong she is by training the main character Ichigo. And at the same time, whenever she fights, she doesn't even use a Zanbakuto. So I feel like when we put those characters side by side, Yorichi is definitely one of the ones that kind of stand out to most people. Alright, so I know I've been rambling a good bit, but I think my end point that I'm trying to make when it comes to all this is Naruto and Jujutsu Kaisen are such popular shows, but if you take a look at the writers and put them next to each other, the female characters of the shows are like night and day. So my main point is with Kishimoto, he tried all that he could to make Sakura popular, and in the early series, she was actually up there in like, I think, top 5 most popular character of the show. But as time went on, obviously we know how that went. She got less popular. Do you think there's anything that he could have did to make Sakura? Well, I mean, I would say did, because Boruto is still going on. Do you think there's anything that he can do to possibly make Sakura more likable? And if you're here for Jujutsu Kaisen, are you actually liking the character Nobara? Even though she has small similar traits as Sakura, do you think that they're doing a pretty good job of, bringing her character to life? So yeah, just let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you think that Sakura, there's no way they can save her, there's no way she can ever redeem herself? Or do you think Nobara, is also in the same boat, or do you like her? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Alright, thanks again for watching, and take care.